And you'll walk by some, and you'll see, you know, a couple artists. I'm going to say last guy. You know, it's beautiful stuff around. He wouldn't even give you. I mean, you could just see people walking by him all times.
Let me interject something right here, because one of my things says here, engage people or find someone who will.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. If you cannot feel that you can be the one up in front. I mean, my wife, when I was in school, I loved when oral reports would come because I could do the graphic, get up there, talk. Always got to be applause. My wife, she'd be under the table shaking. You know, she would not be that salesperson. But I buy from 4 or 5 different potters, including, I have some in there for you. They all, in one sense, I approached them. They didn't come to me. But I knew they were here, and the reason why I wanted them because they were up the street, and I was actually selling, it was more to sell them, so when people come in, I'd be like, this pottery is really more bad. Another one was this guy you talk about, the guy who looks like Phil covered with dust and everything, but no, this guy comes in my store, looks like a sailor off of Cape Cod. And he's got the jeans and he looks like he just made some pottery. 90 years old, been selling pottery for most of his life. And he came in, brought a few products and showed me what he makes, and he does sort of the custom glazed mugs that they'll put North Adams and stuff, but he hand makes it all. I've been since carrying his pottery, but he's not a good one that I find extremely reliable. I deal with it. I don't take too many custom orders from him, but I'll place my order and hope within a year I get it.
This is what not to do.
There's another company that actually is probably in one of these magazines that I order a lot from, and I mean they are on the ball, but they know their schedule so well that they know if you want Christmas orders, don't order from them after October. Well, once October hits, forget it, you know. But right now, they know they can have it to me in 2 to 3 weeks, but their Christmas orders get so heavy, so they stop there. Other pottery, potters that I deal with they all vary, and they all vary. I have one guy out of Arizona. I bought from him once. He sold me over the phone. He called me up, sent me a sample, and I said, okay, let's try it. I haven't bought from him in 5 years, and yet every 6 months he calls me. And I'll be like, well, your product's still on my shelf, But I gotta give him credit because maybe one of these times I'm gonna say, if you don't call, if you don't follow up, if they go to the show and they get a bunch of business cards and they do nothing with it, then what was the point of one being at the show, collecting the business cards? You mentioned about how with the gallery stuff you collect them. Even at my store, as small as it is, I'll put out a raffle or a basket and collect the customer's information, and that has allowed me to build up a mailing list. Those are things that both on your end and on the retail end that we all have to do to promote ourselves and be salespeople. Again, and I think very big. If you don't feel comfortable out in front of there, have a friend, you go set it up. If you want to be there to answer some questions, great. But if there's someone out there who is going to go out and be able to draw those people in, there was a local puzzle company. It was called Nordevco. They're out in Windsor Mill. They're here for quite a few years. And I'm also a graphic designer and illustrator, and I would do a lot of their packaging. And for one time, I went down to the Javits Center to see, how he sells it. Because this guy, to me, didn't seem like a seller. I go down there, and he wasn't. He really wasn't. He would just sort of stand there in the corner. And right across the road from him was another puzzle company. And they're like out there, they're like grabbing you and pulling you in. And I'm thinking, every 100 people that were going by, they had half of them over there, and he'd be lucky if he got 1 or 2. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But,
no, I was getting ready to wind down, and I think...
You sure? Because you can finish.
Go ahead, Phil.
One thing about, we did business with Wendy Rose and his road games. And this woman and her company really worked hard. They were advocates for the artists and the crafts. She did a lot to try and protect people from their ideas being stolen and mass-produced over work overseas. Right now, she's worked with the federal government and gotten the Smithsonian and all the museums to look into buying American-made craft. Most of the shops were carrying stuff made in China and overseas, so they are now going to come to the summer show. She's got I think she's got a wholesale page she's setting up so that people can sell and see if they get it. Wendy Rose.
Well, what I found interesting is when I went down to the Boston gift show, which was not promoted as a handmade local show, it is clearly a growing, it's a growing market that you're seeing in those shows where they're promoting, made locally, made in the USA. I mean, you're seeing that come back. While the honest would be one booth selling all Indian-made or another one selling all China-made products, I was actually pleased to see how many were artists or businesses, family businesses selling their small locally made products. I would say a third of that show were companies out of Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, New England area. So I was pleased because I didn't know if I was going to expect that, knowing it wasn't promoted as a handmade show. And stained glass, but there was quite a bit of artist people there, and I have continued to be in contact with them, and some have already called me. Let me just give you a real brief piece on what my store is for those who don't know. It's not a gallery. I would consider it more, a gift shop, but it's a mix. We started it 9 years ago. It was not myself, it was another woman who started it. She was a mother of 5. She liked making crafts. I would call, there's different levels of craft, but not, of what I would call gallery piece type craft. But typical things you might see at some of the local craft shows around here. She rented a small shop. A year later, she realized, I have 5 kids, what am I doing? And she just couldn't work it every day. It wasn't bringing enough. And myself and a few others, we bought into it with her. And 7 years later, it's now just me. Partnerships are tough, but we managed through it. And it becomes a case of how much time can you give. So we're now on Main Street. We expanded last May, adding an antique shop. We're going to be expanding again this summer. We'll have more done, about 10,000 square feet total, with about half of that being dedicated to antiques. I currently have products from over 100 crafters and artists in the store. Again, I'm cautious of saying artists because I'm not, again, a gallery. If you walk in my store, I do not give the impression of being a gallery. It's full. Unfortunately, I'd love more space, but it fills up. And because customers come in and that's what they expect when they come in. They like it. They like the variety. They like the fullness. Of the crafters that I've dealt with over the past 7 years, most of them, there's 3 ways I sell or have this product in my store. Some rent space, they rent it out and they take 10%. Some I take, buy it or straight out, and it's very important when I'm buying from a crafter, I want to know that I'm getting it at a price that they're not going to be selling it for half that out at a local craft show, if these are local crafters. So if it's on my shelf for $50, I don't want to see it at a local craft show for $25. You won't see me buying from you again if that's the case. As much as maybe I like your product, it's just someone's going to come in my store and say, wait a second, I just saw that down in Pittsfield on North Street for half the price you got it here. And it's weird because consumers seem to think that stores, I guess, shouldn't make any profits. If I know so-and-so's got it for $25 and they sell it for $25, why aren't you selling it for $25? I didn't get it, for that, and I got to make money.